to the highways and byways on their iron horses. People who ride for nothing more sinister than the wind in their hair. People who obey the law.
There's doctors, lawyers, you name it, they're in here.
Assistant controller.
I own a machine shop. I make ammunition for the Army.
99% of America's bikers are law-abiding citizens. But tonight's story is about the other side of biking. The outlaw gangs, the one-percenters. You're about to take a ride on the highway to hell. They roar fast and loud, tearing up highways astride their all-American Harleys. Dirty thunder, they roll into town like an unexpected storm, daring people not to notice them. Some are outlaw bikers. They pride themselves in living outside society's rules.
Some of us are law-abiding, respectful citizens. I can't remember who it is now.
I may beat somebody up that gets in my face. But is it their fault? Why, hell no, it's my fault. Because you know why? I'm the big, mean, tattooed biker.
Tattoos, a coat of arms, leather, a suit of armor. But there exists in this country a growing criminal empire, one that stretches coast to coast along America's highways.
To you, they're just good old boys that ride bikes and party. But that's an image they want to portray because they know that law enforcement really knows that that's not true.
Police estimate there are 25,000 full members of outlaw bike gangs, each with as many as 10 associates, making 250,000 people who can be hell on wheels. These are the one-percenters, and they think it flattering to be counted among this elite and illegal brotherhood.
We're not clean cut. We don't live by society's rules. We live by our own rules, and perhaps we may violate society's on occasion.
The gang said, look, we're the 1%. We're the bad of the bad. We're the ones your mothers warned you about.
The one-percenters are a prosperous, non-traditional organized crime family involved in
crimes ranging from murder, manufacture of controlled substances, rapes, motor vehicle thefts, assaults, just almost any type of crime there is, they've been involved in it.
Their criminal trade used to be dominated by marijuana, as number 13 seen here on their vest. M is the 13th letter of the alphabet.
There's another meaning for that 13 now. M also stands for methamphetamine. A lot of individual gangs became involved in it because it was like a machismo, the ultimate sort of high. It was like you were able to stay awake for long periods of time. It affected you so that you could do more things, be almost superhuman. Unfortunately, methamphetamine is so dangerous it also causes heart attacks. It speeds the body up.
And it's not just a biker drug anymore. Million-dollar profits are spreading methamphetamine all across the country, and police expect it to be the crack of the 90s.
All this white substance on the table is methamphetamine. It tested positive by officers at the scene. This is obviously the area where when they're done cooking their dope, from the lab area out back, they bring it up here to process it, chop it up, bag it, and ultimately distribute it.
It's dawn somewhere in rural Northern California. Police are raiding what they hope will be an active methamphetamine lab.
Okay, let's do it. Federal officers, search warrant!
Meth, or crank as it's known on the street, is the crown jewel in the biker drug trade.
Garbage.
But police believe today's suspect was ready for the raid.
Somebody has tipped off the people as that we were coming, or this guy's just somebody that's extremely paranoid because the security for this area up here, what he has is way too much.
Protection that rivals military installations, a surveillance camera hidden behind an Uncle Sam sign, tripwire ankle high buried in the brush. Today, the drugs were missing, but a few months ago, in the very same area, they weren't.
Bingo. Beautiful. All set up, heating rail, condenser.
The DEA is watching the spread of methamphetamine very carefully. It's worth a whopping $3 billion a year in sales to gangs. With 1,000 biker investigations under his belt, undercover agent Terry Katz is an expert.
Methamphetamine smells like cat urine. The length of the hive can be up to 8 hours. They use highly volatile chemicals, so the danger of fire is severe. In investigations we've conducted, we've seen drug labs blow up.
The gangs are wreaking havoc in America. You may have heard of the so-called Big Four.
Get down. Get down on your face.
The Hells Angels, the Pagans, the Outlaws, and the Bandidos. But you should know about the Sons of Silence, who abide by a code of silence.
And we're not going to be dictated to by anyone. The rules we live by, we feel are more than adequate for a society to, shall we say, amenably get along.
Get along means enjoying shooting contests with live ammunition. So I asked about the weapons.
Being as I am restricted to firearm ownership by a few state governments, I don't own any firearms.
Oh, okay. But you may...
But I might be lying.
He's restricted to owning firearms because he is a convicted felon. There are weapons close to him right now when he's talking to you. There are weapons around him. It's all part of their lifestyle.
A lifestyle that can shock.
Well, that could be incriminating evidence, do you?
Especially when members of a Minnesota chapter of the Sons of Silence videotape a sexual assault for their own viewing pleasure.
It happens all the time. Girls are gang raped. They're raped by 5 or 6 other people. All they know them by is nicknames most of the time, if they even know that. They think they were going to a party, and it turns out they are the party.
More about the Sons of Silence later when we'll go inside one of their camps. Bikers swear their allegiance to colors worn proudly on their backs and speak of them in reverent tones.
I was infatuated with the fact of wanting to be a biker and being part of a brotherhood. And once you get your colors, you know, they're sacred to you, and you treat them with respect. You don't ever let anybody else wear your colors.
This loyalty and brotherhood, even criminal brotherhood, has unlikely roots.
The victory in Europe, and rejoicing all over the world because of the recollection of the triumph of Nazi barbarism and its final overthrow.
1945, America was dancing in the streets, free from the drama of war. But for some returning servicemen, the drama was missing. They took to riding the countryside on Harley-Davidsons with Nazi insignia, seeking to shock.
Right after World War II, when bikers first came into existence, a lot of these guys were kind of antisocial and didn't want to be involved with society anymore. A lot of war people tend to do that. If anybody had the right to have an attitude about a swastika, would be the guys that were in the war themselves, and some of them, the wild kind, would wear these things.
It was wild, all right. A 1947 riot in sleepy Hollister, California stamped bikers with a mystique. Enter Marlon Brando, roaring on a Harley. And suddenly, between America and motorcycles, there sprang a permanent love affair. The Wild One told a Hollywood version of a true incident where 3 bikers were locked up for very little reason. A riot resulted, and they were finally let go. Since The Wild One, motorcycling has become an American institution. And nowhere is it more celebrated than in the small town of Sturgis, South Dakota, near Mount Rushmore. Once a year, Sturgis swells from its population of 5,000 to 100,000 people for its annual bike rally. It is here that hardcore one-percenters mix freely with weekend motorcyclists.
It took me 4 days to go 1,600 miles.
You've been riding
30 years. Under 99% of these leathers are very fine, decent community Americans.
The Sturgis Biker Week Rally was founded in 1938 by this man, J.C. Pappy Hoyle. Outlaws or not, Sturgis has made biking its business.
Mr. Bradford with the reporter. How things going today?
Fine.
Any signs of trouble?
No trouble. Everything's peaceful.
With only 7 jail cells in town, Sturgis imports 350 officers to keep the peace.
I got off my old man's bike, and was asked by some people to do a topless sit on his bike, and I said sure. So I sat down, flashed my got off the bike after people took pictures, and cops came walking up, grabbed my arm, and said, "You're under arrest," and threw me against the wall and cuffed me for indecent exposure.
In town, things are under control, but elsewhere.
You basically try to keep things safer here, and whatever they do in their campgrounds is their business.
We've got nothing to do with the campgrounds out of town. We're strictly in town.
At the recent gathering in Sturgis, we made contact with the Sons of Silence, who invited us to their remote campground outside a cemetery. Our host was the affable Paul Robert Klein, known as PK, the enforcer for the Colorado Springs chapter.
All right, I'm not a gangster. I'd be more liable to help your mama than John Q. Public would. Well, and I imagine there's all kinds of law enforcement officials will be watching this that you're going to talk to when you put this thing together, and they're going to say, do you realize that guy PK has a federal rap sheet and is thought to be one of the motorcycle gangsters in the country? So what?
Well, one of the things that we keep track of is their arrest history, and as you can see, PK, or Paul Robert Klein, his arrest history is rather lengthy.
My arrest record is one of the ones, unfortunately, that's long. The beliefs that we hold are very similar to the early American settlers. We believe in each other. We don't believe, as a matter of fact, it's against our club rules, shoot dope, smoke cocaine, become addicted to any substance, no matter what, including alcohol.
Doesn't say you can't use it, and they do. And it doesn't say anything about not being able to sell that drug or manufacture that drug, just not becoming addicted to it.
Club rules and arrest record aside, PK took our crew around to witness some typical Sons of Silence campground activities. Some areas were off limits. There was the macho beer guzzling contest. The hand-to-hand combat of arm wrestling. And this shooting demonstration with live ammunition. Yes, live ammunition.
We do have the capability to be as bad as we need to be. As soon as you tell me you're going to jump my ass, your ass is mine. I'm not going to stand there and argue with you about it.
We consider them to be among the top 20 motorcycle gangs in the country. I have heard once you guys were there that there had been some consternation or some disgruntled members of the Sons of Silence that you were allowed in the campground.
As night fell on the Black Hills of South Dakota came memories of another night, perhaps the darkest in biker history. It was 1969, an ugly riot at a Rolling Stones concert at the Altamont Raceway in California results in one man stomped and stabbed to death by Hell's Angels. The Angels had been hired as bodyguards for $500 in beer. That incident moved the Hell's Angels from renegades to feared criminals in the minds of most Americans.
Gang members have a fascination with death. Gang members know that they're not going to live a long time.
This is a demon. The shafting, the Grim Reaper sitting over here with his sigh. All right, see him? All right. The demon has his own little tattoo. Says FTW world and shaft and death. Saying, you want me? Come get me.
And that fascination with death is also manifested in their fascination with weapons, with their fascination with homicide, and their involvement in violent crime.
Violent crimes against society and against each other in the form of gang wars. This confiscated police tape from 1982 shows members of the Sons of Silence having target practice on a rival outlaw gang member T-shirt.
Nah, he's been dead.
Yeah. We do kill each other. Why? Don't ask me. I don't approve of it. I've never seen the sense in it. The police love it. Not only do they kill each other, but we get to arrest the ones that did it. We get rid of 4 of them instead of, just one of them.
Murder for hire is not unusual. This Hells Angel associate was arrested a month ago in California for his part in an alleged hit on a former biker. 2 months ago in Connecticut, 7 members of Helter Skelter were charged with killing a rival bike gang president. Biker funerals are social gatherings. Even in death, the brotherhood continues.
Without any hesitation at all, to give my life for either of these guys in the blink of an eye. That's just the way it is.
The Hells Angels are the undisputed top of the outlaw biker heap. There are numerous clubs fighting for their piece of the criminal pie, especially the Sons of Silence.
They call themselves a social organization. A bunch of guys just like to get together and ride motorcycles.
It's like one big close-knit family to the max. We'll cover everybody's back.
They are heavily involved in dealing methamphetamine or speed. They've been involved in dealing cocaine, marijuana, probably most any kind of drug that they can make money on.
Aside from the drugs and the violence, perhaps the biggest part of biker life is the women. Women we met when we were guests at the Sons of Silence campground.
The most biker-anticipated event was a contest amongst the women, who are called old ladies. The crowd decides who has the best breasts. Most of the women looked like they were barely out of their teens. The prize, $150.
The bikers are probably the epitome of the male chauvinist pig. It is a male organization. Females are not allowed in the club. They are property of the club. They wear patches that I'm sure you've seen in Sturgis as property of Bandido, so-and-so.
On the other hand, they're viewed in a lesser light than their motorcycles. A good motorcycle to them is very important. Very difficult to obtain one that they really like. So they're going to put more credence in their motorcycle than they are in their woman.
PK disagrees.
I've been with the same lady for 5 years. Now, hey, this could be abusive. She's 23. She was 18 when I got her.
He shows me a love letter from his wife.
Hi, I love you. I miss you. Are you being good? Bo says hi and love you too, Dad. Me. P.S. Ha ha. Is that ha ha on the are you being good part?
24 hours later on the streets of Sturgis, it was a different story.
And my question is, what is your old lady going to think about this?
I'm a charming individual.
Is she having fun?
Yes, I am. Are you having fun?
Absolutely. She's having fun. I just want to know one thing. What? Are you a wild one?
Yes, she is.
Do I look wild?
The wild women in biking.
I made it myself. It's leather. Usually put some kind of Harley emblem on it.
I tell them when they get little enough.
The women that you were talking to in the bikini, the leather bikinis, I mean, those women are hopeless. They're going to be like that for the rest of their lives.
One thing we noticed is that a lot of the biker women look more attractive than biker men. Why do they hang out with these guys?
Their wild animal magnetism, I suppose. Their craziness, their vulnerability, not care about what anybody thinks, and a lot of women are attracted to that. I am.
Back at the Sons of Silence camp, the women we spoke to echoed the same feeling.
Why hang out with a bunch of wimps when you can hang out with these guys, you know? I mean, that's only common sense, you know. Sure, they're all strong, they're all great. I feel safe here. Safer than I do at home, probably.
Eve Levine, author of a new book about 1% bike gangs, studied some biker women.
If you're between 13 and 18 years of age and you're still, if your thighs are still pretty tight, then you're welcome. Once you get old, and 22, at 22, if you've been hanging around with bike clubs for 5 years, you're old as a woman. There's someone better who can replace you. And if you walk away with your life, you're lucky.
Most of the women you saw at the age of 16 or up will never make it to 35. In women that I've interviewed that have been bike gang associates, they'll tell me that they became involved in a bike gang because of sex, drugs, or party. And the gangs made them feel like somebody. They felt like they were important to the gang, whereas they might not be important to someone else.
They are tools. A woman is a sexual object, either for the biker's personal pleasure or for his wallet. He'll sell, rent her out. One woman in Florida was crucified to a tree by an outlaw, because she failed to return with $10 she was supposed to have collected for performing a sexual act on a man.
Anybody can hear of all kinds of stuff. There's white slavery. Everybody knows about white slavery.
But there are women happy in the biker life.
I love my Bandidos.
Some are like Penny Dees, whose Sons of Silence husband, Norby, was killed in a bar fight.
How was he killed? Stabbed 27 times. Has the Sons of Silence been taking care of you? Better than anybody else has. Better than anybody else has. They're godfathers to my son. Couldn't ask for a better father to take his father's place.
What we have here are memory patches. These are brothers that have died. Some of them were shot, some of them were stabbed, some of them got in motorcycle accidents. One died natural causes.
The bikers have a massive, massive public relations effort going. They hire public relations experts to help convince the public that they're not bad guys. They have runs, toys for tots. They'll collect little teddy bears for kids at Christmas.
Here, the Hells Angels donated $3,000 to charity to carry the torch at the 1984 Olympics.
Well, there's a bit of good in everyone. And fine, they might do that. They might donate blood. Well, they should, because they draw a lot of it.
And there is biker insurance of good public relations through witness intimidation.
We know from gang investigations that gangs have readily intimidated witnesses to include homicide, arson, beating, rape, in order to keep people from testifying.
The Sons of Silence, several years ago, intimidated one witness by wearing T-shirts, nothing more, just showing up wearing T-shirts that said, "Witnesses die, nobody testifying," on their T-shirts. They didn't say a thing.
Have you ever killed survivors?
No, questions like that are not acceptable.
Are not answerable?
It's not acceptable. I'm not saying I'm answering it, I'm just saying it's not acceptable.
I've known PK for about 5 years. I don't know if he has an ITCOB. Did you see that patch on him? I took care of business.
PK was wearing one.
That's a patch that the Sons of Silence wear when they have done something for the club, whether it be beat up a rival gang member, kill another gang member, just do something for the club. They have an ITCOB patch. Paul Klein takes care of business.
Taking care of business, a heartless job description for the outlaw 1%. It sounds so much nicer than drug trafficking, assault, and murder. This is not what our